Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Ifeni, the Great Malabite. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. I hope you had a robust weekend. Now, we'll start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. We start with the story above the masthead. Uzoka Adnete, Nigeria to influence policy outcomes as WTO MC13 begins today. Yes, the Conference of Ministers, the WTO, the World Trade Organization, begins today in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. And of course, the Minister for Industry, Trade and Investment, of course, will be at that meeting. And she's saying that Nigeria is ready to actively contribute to the global dialogue, the 15th Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organization, which kicks off today. So Nigeria will be there. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment will be there. Now, the lead story, economic reforms. Tinubu begins broad consultation, sets up tripartite advisory committee, meets private sector leaders, governors. Yes, the president yesterday met with captains of industry, some governors and private sector players. Of course, at that meeting, critical stakeholders who were at that meeting, of course, Aliko Dangote, Femi Otedola, Saman Rabiu, Tony Elumelu, of course, economists, and the MD of Financial Derivatives, Bismarck Rowane, Amina Maina, the vice president of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, and of course, there was also Shegun Ajayi-Kadri, the DG, the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, and motor manufacturer Innocent Chukwuma was also at that meeting, and governors of Anambra State, Prof. Chukwuma Soludo and Prince Dakpo Abiodun, the governor of Ogun State, were also at that meeting. Yes, the president in his opening remarks saying that, look, we are not saying we have all the answers, but we will not be blamed for not trying. Well, I hope this is not a trial and error exercise. But after all the talk about the Lagos Wonder, bringing the Lagos Wonder to the center and the Lagos boys, well, many have advised the president to seek help. And I see this consultation with critical stakeholders as part of that seeking help, because some of the policies, the outcome of some of these policies have not panned out as the government intends. Yes, we are promised that there will be smiles after all the pains. There will be light at the end of the tunnel. There is silver lining on the horizon, but things are dire. So bringing these critical stakeholders together, but the advisory committee, tripartite advisory committee, is what I don't get. Yes, I hope when this committee comes up with the necessary advisory, it will be taken. Because if we go back in time, remember President Olusegun Obasanjo telling his advisors when he was swearing them in, I am not bound to take your advice, And of course, President Muhammadu Buhari set up a similar economic advisory team. From the public conversation of members of that committee, the government of President Muhammadu Buhari never really took seriously the advice given by that committee. So what will be different this time around? Well, some of the stakeholders who were there, Dangote, Rabiu, I hope the president will also ask them, why is cement price going so high? Can't you do something to bring it down? Because despite the meeting held last week with cement manufacturers by the Minister of Works, well, there's nowhere you can see cement being sold for 7,000 naira or even 8,000 naira. It's going up by the day. And for Chukwuma, Innocent, well, I'm sure when he was even entering that, I can imagine what's going on in his mind. Calling me after you have bought all the vehicles from Japan. What? Well, perhaps they should have called him earlier and have advised the government, we can save some hard currency by patronizing my... That is a no-brainer, but again, I'm sure he will put forward is, of course, the problem with manufacturing of vehicles or the assembling of vehicles in Nigeria. It will do Nigeria a whole world of good if we buy vehicles that are produced in Nigeria. Now, if we just go to the New Telegraph newspaper, yes, still on the committee, Tinubu to tripartite panel. We may not have all the answers now, but we are trying, says the president, sets up Presidential Economic Advisory Committee. We have what it takes to turn around the economy, Dangote, and of course, FX, artificial, manipulative, Abdul Samad. Implementing decisions we arrive at today will propel our economy. Tony Elumelu, well, implementing the decisions is one thing. Taking the advice is also another thing. Will the government take the advice and implement accordingly? Perhaps that will be the critical test of setting up this committee. Now, the Business Day newspaper, CBN mops up 1.51 trillion naira in 4 months to stabilize economy. Yes, the Central Bank of Nigeria has issued a total of 1.5 trillion naira in the open market operation bill since Yemi Cardoso assumed office as central bank governor, all in a bid to stem inflation and prop up the naira, whose steep decline has unsettled the economy. The Business Day newspaper reporting there also has this front page commentary, Floating Stone on Water, part 2. Yes, he said the government of Bola Tinubu attempted to do what we all know only God can do, to float stone on water. That is precisely what the government tried when it floated the naira without the support it requires. It's a Business Day front page commentary right in there. The Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration tried to float stone on water. That's an analogy to the floating of the naira. Now, the Guardian newspaper, FX crisis, Nigeria falling out of top 4 African economies on weak currency. Yes, the depreciation of the naira over the last 8 months is something that has also affected the standing of the Nigerian economy within the African continent. Also on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, 65 CSOs withdraw as NLC dares federal government mobilizes for nationwide protests. The Vanguard newspaper looking at the condition of factories, job losses, factory closures loom as unsold goods pile up. Manufacturers Association of Nigeria making that revelation. Nigeria plunges 254% in 8 months. Existence of MSMEs further threatened. Asbon, CBN should adopt managed flotation of the naira, CPPE. That's the Center for Promotion of Private Enterprise, led by Muda Yusuf. And that body is also commending the central bank for its intervention in customs duty. Of course, that story is on page 5 of this day newspaper. CPP commends CBN's intervention in customs duty, exchange rate computation, urges Apex Bank to peg rate at 1,000 naira to the dollar. Now, because of the increase in duty, import duty over the last 6 weeks, over the last 3 weeks, 60% increase. And this changes every day. But the CBN has not intervened, because many who imported goods last year that are arriving now have abandoned their imported cars and goods at the port, because the exchange rate being used to increase the duty payable has gone up astronomically. But now with the CBN intervention, the CBN is saying that the customs should use the exchange rate reflected on the import documentation Form M, as at the time the orders were made to compute the duty. I think that will bring some relief to importers who have imported goods. But Dr. Muda Yusuf is saying that they should take one step further and just fix the rates for duty computation at 1,000 naira to the dollar for the rest of the year. That will bring some stability to that sector. Now, if we look at the Blueprint newspaper, planned nationwide protest, defiant NLC insists as Afenifere CSOs urge ceasefire. Police warn against violence. Falana seeks protection. Labour hashing hidden agenda presidency. Well, a couple of days ago, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, said the Labour will be in the breach of the law, contempt of court, if they embark on strike. But Femi Falana, senior advocate of Nigeria, who is lawyer to NLC and TUC, has said no, they will not be breaching any law. They are not in contempt of court. So Labour is insisting they will go on strike despite pleas from government. But Labour is saying the issue here is for government to meet its side of the MOU signed. Now, the Punch newspaper has that story also. NLC protest, presidency, police issue fresh warning and 65 groups pull out. Now, the Daily Independent newspaper, CBN proposal on BDCs may see APCON emerging as a company, while the Daily Trust newspaper reporting Qatar backtracks host Nigeria's business forum. Yes, after the back and forth, well, that business forum will be hosted after all, according to the Daily Trust newspaper. The Leadership newspaper, 5.108 trillion naira in 8 months. Hardship unabated in states despite huge allocation. The subnationals, what are they doing? Labour warns federal government against attack on protesters. Now, the Abuja Inquirer, 33 years after Abuja master plan up for review, lack of funds delayed review FCDA. Well, I hope the review will not, because that master plan was properly done. But if they are to review, I hope it's not to accommodate the interests of politicians and some stakeholders of today. The Guardian newspaper of UK, looking at the foreign newspapers now, Sunak urged to speak out as Islamophobia row deepens. Tory peer calls on Prime Minister to denounce Anderson's remark on Sadiq Khan. Yes, Sadiq Khan, the first Muslim mayor of London. Well, there were a number of comments about him and what he's doing that is in favor of Muslims and all that, but that in itself is Islamophobia, and that is what they are urging the Prime Minister to speak out on this row, while the Washington Post newspaper is reporting clock ticks on Trump's penalties. Well, with the number of cases former President Donald Trump is facing, well, he's forging ahead with his presidential bid, winning the primaries in, of course, the home state of his rival, who should be pulling out of the race. Yes, Nikki Haley. But she's saying, you know what? I'm going away. I'm not pulling out, despite losing her home state. Ruben, Rufai, and Ayo.
But you want Super Tuesday. She will lose it. Anyway, first, let's start with Anderson, the Ashfield MP, who said that the Islamists have taken over the city of London with the active connivance of Sadiq Khan, the mayor, whom he said has given away the city of London to his mates. That's what is interpreted as Islamophobia. And it's curious that in 1 week, in London, they have moved from anti-Semitism with pro-Palestinian protesters projecting a pro-Palestine message onto the Big Ben, now to,
Islamophobia.
Come on, within the Conservative Party about Islamophobia. However, it's a delicate thing. The MP for Ashfield has been suspended. Former chairman, deputy chairman of the Tory party. But again, this is politics, because now there are some members of the party who are now saying they are receiving messages from Red Wall, voters. Red Wall, that's, strongholds of the Labour Party that ended up, with many seats in the hands of the Tories. And they are trying to find a way about how Anderson can be, the suspension can be lifted. But it's election season. You find a lot about it. So it's not only in Nigeria that we talk about ethnicity, that we fight over religion. It happens elsewhere too. But what everybody, whether in Britain or Nigeria or elsewhere, should focus upon is the common ties of humanity, which is the major message about, the crisis in Russia, Ukraine, and also in the Middle East. Now, Labour in Nigeria is saying that they are going on that strike. And their counsel, Femi Falana, has said the Attorney General of the Federation is wrong to say that they will be guilty of contempt of court. There have been 2 ex parte injunctions, interlocutory injunctions, one by a federal high court sitting in Abuja, another one by the president of the National Industrial Court, and argument by the counsel to Labour is that, look, the right to protest is a constitutional right. It's there in the Constitution. And that in any case, in Inspector General of Police versus All Nigeria People's Party, AMPP, a 2008 case, the point has been made that, in fact, in Nigeria, you can protest even without police permit. And that it was wrong on the part of the Office of the Attorney General to seek to intimidate organized labor. Organized labor has also said that there is a group, a civil society group, that has been put together to attack members of organized labor when they go on protest. Well, what we expect is that that will not happen, and that the constitutional rights of labor would be respected. And as Femi Falana, SAN, has advised, that the protest will be peaceful, because that's what the law says. But there is also the residual matter of the TUC, Trade Union Congress, saying that although TUC and NLC came together to give government a 14-day ultimatum, but at this time around, the strike that is supposed to begin tomorrow, that is a unilateral action on the part of the Nigeria Labour Congress.
After both
had originally agreed
that
the government
14 days
having failed
after 14 days
the 16-point agreement in the memorandum of understanding that was signed in October 2023, that government, had violated good faith. But we hope that everything will be peaceful and that government will take every step to address the issue. As for the committee that was...
we must not forget to add, it is the duty of the police to protect protesters,
to maintain...
ensure that nobody attacks them and they don't attack anybody.
As we saw recently in Ibadan,
yes,
where the Oyo State Police Command protected people who were defending the integrity of their stomachs and protesting about the high cost of living in Nigeria. Finally, the committee that government has set up, well, I said it's good for the optics, but it's like putting the cart before the horse. That's what I said earlier on. And that, look, it's a panic measure. And if you look at this list of the persons that were invited to the meeting with the president, you see that they were carefully selected. The question you will ask is that, are these not the same persons who advised Obasanjo? Are these not the same persons who advised Yaradua? Are these not the same persons who advised President Jonathan? Are these not the same persons who advised Buhari? They are there now. They are advising Tinubu. They've been invited as stakeholders. What special thing are they going to come up with?
So these people you have mentioned, are you sure they took the advice given?
Well, that's the other leg of it.
You asked that too.
So
also.
it's one thing.
Look, I remember, although Bismarck was part of that committee on Buhari's advisory committee, most of his public comment shows that what they gave as advice was not being followed.
Well, if they invite you to come and advise, and you know that government is deaf and dumb, well, after a while, some people will say, well, I don't want to advise. But we have problems to solve.
And it's an act of patriotism for them to go and put heads together with the president.
The purpose that that meeting will serve is that at least we see that government is trying to do something. That's why the president said, we are trying. Okay, we have seen it. But what the people of Nigeria are interested in is tangible results, not GDP figures, not, trying. They want results. I rest my case.
All right, very quickly, let me just talk about two things. The Rishi Sunak story from the UK, especially the crisis rocking the Conservative Party with regards to Islamophobia, and just a few comments. Lee Anderson is not the only one under fire, and like had been mentioned, the main contention here is that whilst the Prime Minister has spoken to the issue, saying that statements like this and actions like this have been exacerbated by the October, incident between Hamas and Israel. The challenge is the fact that he's not calling it what it is. And in the UK, it's very clear when it comes to issues around racism, Islamophobia, it has to be tagged as what it is and not, covering it on the surface and just saying, oh, people are behaving badly. Name it what it is. So even despite the fact that he's been suspended, they're still calling for Rishi Sunak to come out and say and call it what it is. And I think that's the difference in terms of the power of holding government to account, especially in coming out to publicly condemn actions, like this when it comes to racism, Islamophobia, and the comparison with what we have here, where people make statements that are obviously they incite violence. It's ethnic driven. It is religiously driven. Last week we just talked about the incident with the First Lady of Nigeria and the fact that I'd mentioned that beyond sanctions and arrests, the Muslim community must also come out and the government to boldly call it what it is and dissociate from it completely, to say that we condemn in its totality what has happened. But unfortunately, again and again, we don't see that happen. It's just a slap on the wrist, and that's why it will keep occurring. There's a reoccurrence of this issue. Beyond that, Suella Braverman, also of the Tory, has been slammed for some statements that she has made with regards to extremists, saying that England has been taken over by extremists, anti-Semitists, and all that. So these are some of the things that have come up, and Rishi Sunak doesn't seem to be budging. In the few days, let's see if he will. But within that, they have statements, and it's not the first time with the Tory parties. Now, coming back home to Nigeria and the strike, the concerns of the CSOs that have pulled out, 16, as reported in some papers, 65 in others, is the fact that they're saying that there's a concern that because of the current situation of things on ground and the anger and the hunger in the land, they are concerned that this protest could be hijacked by people who could then turn it violent. And so, in the interest of public peace, they'd rather not take part in this protest. However, I do believe that the onus is on security agents to provide security and to ensure that the fundamental right of Nigerians to protest is not infringed on by providing the much needed security for them. They are not going on strike. It's a peaceful protest. We cannot continue to hide under the guise of, oh, it's to be hijacked, and then you prevent people from airing their grievances, from protesting, from protesting against the current economic situation. So my concern or my drive or my push this morning is for the security agencies to do their jobs and not curtail or gag people from speaking out and exercising their fundamental rights as protected by the Constitution in Nigeria.
When the state does not want a protest to happen, they tell you there might be security concerns. Dr. Abat is on this table, and I will ask him this question again. When these same actors that are in government today were protesting against subsidy removal in 2012.
You mean the famous Ojota protest?
Yes, Ojota protest. Did people not tell Goodluck Jonathan that was there a possibility of using the military? Did he use it? No. He allowed their freedom. These same actors, this same APC, this same Bola Tinubu, these same people that are in power today. Jonathan did not use the military on them. The only incident that was reported was of that of some overzealous police officer that killed Demola around Yaya Baton. That was the only incident. These same people, they were there. They shut down the country for 2 weeks at the start of January. These same people.
January 2012.
January 2012. The beginning of the year, they shut down the country. In Ibadan, protest was peaceful. But we remember what happened in Lekki. When did the violence start? Was it not when some unscrupulous elements, we saw them coming down from cars? These thugs. Were they not the ones that started the disruption? We remember. So when the states, and the states, the way they morph into civil society groups. Don't be civil society group. All of a sudden, we've seen all of them. Read the letter that Joe Ajero wrote today. But there was no panic in Ibadan when there was a protest. Because they know that anytime labor goes on strike, it discredits the administration. That's why they don't want it. And if you don't want it, listen to Labour. Fix the problem Labour highlighted. It's just another phase of hypocrisy we are doing today. Just like Ayo and Dr. Abati talked about Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. Doesn't it span up to America? Is there not the hypocrisy of what? And you see, I don't even want to say it's only against Islamic groups or Jewish people. Also, evangelical Christians in America do it. Evangelical Christians today are blind to all the shenanigans of Trump and all the hate speech Trump does out. They are blind to it. Why? Because Trump does some things that favor them, because he repealed Roe versus Wade and things that tie to their value. They don't mind the fact that this same Trump cannot even quote Bible. Wasn't not Trump that was, instead of using 2 Corinthians, I say 2 Corinthians 1 something. He can't quote Bible.
But he went to the front of the church to
Bible up. The evangelicals,
not satisfied with that.
The evangelicals are blind to it. For others, they will say, oh, no, the man should love philandra. But Trump is a philandra with many women, with allegations of sleeping with a porn star. The evangelicals in America cannot see that. It's God sent. You see, this religion that we've turned into politics, may God save us. May God purge us.
There's a song to that effect.
Yeah, religion, politics.
I know you like to sing.
Yes, it's true. This religion we've turned into.
That's Majek Fashek.
Majek Fashek. So apart from UK that you've talked about, and the America that is happening, and these are the evangelicals that are going to vote in mass for Trump because some things favor them. Things like Planned Parenthood, things like the laws against abortion. So for them, it's about horse trading. And for the case you cited, Ayo, the cleric has apologized, but I like to sing another song too, like One Republic, a pop band. They say it's too late to apologize. The man should be picked up and be made to face the full wrath of the law. When he was saying those things, he didn't know that time. And I'm happy about the Islamic groups that have come out to condemn that cleric, but he should still be picked up. Because you see, when we keep slapping people on the wrist and just say, go like that, these things will persist.
No, there's an update on that. Actually, the Bauchi Police Command had issued a warrant of arrest.
Very good.
They've declared the man wanted.
Very good.
Because, he was saying, oh, you should kill
Very good.
the First Lady of Nigeria, Mrs. Remi Tinubu, because she's a Christian
Very good.
and her husband is a Muslim. So the man has been reported as saying that he misquoted the Quran and that the Quran does not say so. But he's been having a running battle with the Nigerian police since 2022 for making this kind of inflammatory, unacceptable.
Yes, and he's been getting away with it.
Yes, so what we need to stress is that there's no room for apology under Nigerian laws. Whether you are quoting the criminal code or the penal code, there's no apology. You commit a crime, you take the you
do the time.
Yes, you do the time, as the popular phrase says.
Yes.
So we should call on the Inspector General of Police not to accept apology, to make sure that this man is apprehended and is used as an example. Actually, there is a law, against using the pulpit to spew nonsense. There's a law like that, I think in Kaduna State. Now, that law should be enforced if it exists in some of these states where, these people just take the pulpit and under the guise of being clerics, they just try to divide the country. No, I think that incitement to murder, this verbal terrorism by this so-called Islamic cleric should not be allowed to pass just on the grounds of apology. Thank you very much, Emmanuel Efeni.